In the 1977 science fiction film Star Wars, the older mentor character says to the young hero, "I fought alongside your father during the Clone Wars." Now, that one sentence introduced the idea of cloning into the Star Wars story, and really it became central over the next decades. In fact, multiple movies were made, series were made, and even the echoes of those Clone Wars were alluded to in the recent hit Star Wars series, The Mandalorian. Now, why are we talking about science fiction stories, specifically Star Wars, and the topic of cloning? What can we learn from Star Wars about cloning and our attitude towards clones? Well, to begin with, let's talk about the clones themselves. The clones in Star Wars were modeled after a Mandalorian bounty hunter named Jango Fett. That entire sentence may have just went right over your head. But what the important thing to know about Jango is that he was a very good fighter. And so they chose someone who would make a good soldier, someone who would be good in battle. Now, they modified these clones because they wanted them to be less independent. They also wanted them to grow faster and to be able to reach maturity quicker so that they would be battle ready faster. Now, we introduce this Django not just because he's who was cloned, but we can also see the attitude towards these clones that some expressed. You would think that Django, in looking at them, may be interested, may be excited to see them. However, he didn't want anything to do with these clones. And in fact, he saw them as little more than livestock and very much expendable. And that really betrays what could become a human tendency to look at someone who was cloned as less than human. Now, the clones themselves, they were never given names. They were just assigned numbers, CT followed by a designation of numbers to tell them apart. However, they began to express some individuality. They gave themselves nicknames such as Fives, Echo, Rex, Cody. They wanted to be different. They also changed their hairstyles so that they would stand out as different from their fellow clones. Now, these clones had their loyalty tested. In one story, they came across a clone who had left the army, had deserted, and he was now living with his wife and adopted children, and really he was trying to hide from this clone army so he didn't have to go back. And this squad of clones that found him, they were left with the ethical dilemma as what to do with him. Would they turn him in? Would they brand him a traitor? Or would they allow him the choice to stay there with his family? Well, that raises a question, doesn't it? Is it okay for an individual or a human who was cloned to make their own choice as to how they want to live their life, or should they only be allowed to do what they were cloned or designed to do? Now, let's also talk a little bit about those who were set to lead this army. This was a group called the Jedi. Now, you may not be familiar with the Jedi, and that's okay, you don't need to be. The only thing you really need to know is that they considered themselves to be the guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy. And so it's interesting to see their relationship to the clones that they were leading. Some of them treated them quite nicely. They valued them as living beings. In fact, one Jedi even she was able to tell the difference in their voices, whereas most people would hear just the same voice over and over again. She could pick out the different clones based solely on their voices, and she was credited with truly as being a good listener and listening to them. However, other Jedi did see them as expendable. In one story, a Jedi general there was just sending clones in to be massacred, just throwing numbers at the situation. And so that raises another ethical question. These clones that were being sent to their death, did they have the right to say, no, I don't want to do this. I don't agree with these tactics. I'm not willing to fight for this cause. Well, that again raises a moral question for us when thinking about cloning, does it not? Well, the answers to these questions are left to us as the viewers to answer. and perhaps this little talk will make you interested in learning more. Maybe you'll go to Disney Plus and watch some of the Clone Wars episodes there. Or you may think, well, this is kind of silly. This is far-fetched and it's science fiction. And that's true. However, you may be interested to know that on May 11th of this year, that Popular Mechanics magazine reported that the defense minister of Russia suggested that they would like to clone an army of 3,000-year-old Scythian warriors. So really that kind of hits home that I guess I should say that the subheading said good luck with that. So I don't think we need to be worried about it, but really the time to answer these ethical questions isn't after the cloning takes place like it did in Star Wars, but really before it's even possible to do so, and certainly before the Clone Wars would begin again.